I ask you a question? Anyway, politics is entertainment here. Just go and watch Frankie.
You have to stay.
Can I ask you a question?
That's cool.
You.
Oh, me.
So you wanna do all this deep, profound, philosophical pieces. Malaysian Insider. You're complaining that newspapers don't do this.
Yeah.
Enough of this. Do you think the Malaysian public wants to read stuff like this?
It's not a matter of whether people want. We just have to.
If it's written by you.
I gave a talk here last Tuesday and I was complaining about the Mahathir kind of, and one of my friends said, the way you get your message across is exactly like Dr. Mahathir. No, it's not a question of whether the Malaysian public wants it or doesn't want it. I mean, I think it should be impulsive. I think the working journalist should actually want that. I mean, but the more I hear all this kind of stuff that Jabba is about IPs and whatever not, I'm archaic. I'm a crank. I've kind of, I still read the newspaper. I still need, otherwise I don't believe it's reading. So I kind of glance through the Malaysian Insider. Anything is interesting, I print it out so that I can actually read it. What? No, don't laugh at me. What? A book was written about this in 1922. It was called The Brave New World. And it's actually, if we allow all this to happen, we're going to become technical morons, not technology morons. The other day I went to get one of these phones, they call smartphones? I don't have internet or anything on it because I don't know how to use it. And there was this guy, the guy who worked there, he came up to me and he couldn't say hello or welcome or anything. And the English was so bad. But then I said, what's the difference between this phone and that smaller phone? And he said, oh, this has Android, paraglider, and the English was absolutely superb. But he couldn't even say hello and welcome. So yeah, begs the question on issues of language and where I think those questions need to be asked. And imagination is important. I still do believe it's important. Any other questions? Yeah, one there. Okay. Okay, just one point. The question on hudud, and I think you were quite unfair to my dear friend Anwar Ibrahim. He's not as simple as closet fundamentalism, but he's a closet of many things. And one of the great, as we spoke last week, I think he's an extremely complicated and complex figure who hasn't really been properly deconstructed by us. I actually think he's most of all a closet secularist. A man who really likes to think that his main personal affiliations are liberal and secular, but he has been constructed in this kind of way, and this is his political base. And this has been the struggle of lots of Muslim modernists actually. After a while you construct yourself in this image and then can't get yourself out of it. But he's also a very shrewd and very clever operator. The question about hudud is interesting. Hudud comes out less, Nick Aziz says it now and again as a kind of gestural thing, but it comes out less from the Kelantan politicians. Every time they mention hudud in 1995 and 2004, seriously, they have taken a hammering. 2004 they took a real hammering, 1995 they lost some seats and then they got into a big fight with, because it's a real reality. And I'll tell you one thing, no Kelantanese is willing to allow his son or daughter to be the first one being whipped there. So, you get a lot of the hudud noise from people like Harun Din and more of the urban-based people. One of the interesting things about PAS also, and this is something people should ask, is this question of, this idea that there's a liberal wing in PAS. Let me tell you, there is no liberal wing in PAS. There are people who maybe just have more open experience, but not one of them will grapple with the hudud issue. I remember talking to Khalid Samad just after the temples issue in Selangor, in Shah Alam. And everybody, and as you said, we've hit rock bottom. So anybody who says anything even remotely moderate is regarded as liberal. He said, he came out, of course, and I must tabe him for this now because he almost got assaulted and things like that. But defending the right but he didn't defend it as a right. He said that Islam was there to protect minorities. And when I asked him the question, so that means it's no longer a right for minorities, but we depend on your protection and your patronage. It didn't even click him that he looked at things that way. And if you ask the other liberals, Mujahid or Zulkifli Ahmad, they're going to say the same thing. And the anatomy, the makeup of PAS, the structure of PAS, is actually very interesting. I actually think there are lots of fissures at the moment. And if you ask my personal opinion, I think their gravitation towards the union with UMNO, at least in one major faction, which is the Dewan Ulama, is going to consolidate as events unfold.
Yes, I had something.
Yeah.
You mentioned Khalid Samad.
I think very people forget, I mean, he's fighting with Zul Nordin, a very hardliner. I think a lot of people forget that Khalid Samad was a guy who led a protest against Elton John performing in the arena. Okay, so he is right in saying there is no liberal wing. They all, at the base level, at any level, they're the same. You know, having said that, I think a lot of people did go for Elton John. He did turn out. Khalid Samad, of course, didn't go. But you have to remember that all these guys are really the same. Is this now you think Zul Nordin is an idiot for what he says? But at the same time, Khalid Samad is an idiot for protesting against Elton John, right?
Just one more thing. I think Zul Nordin is not the mainstream. He is a neo-fascist extremist. Really, that's how you should see him. He's just so loud, and he represents a particular view of Dr. Mahathir. But he really is a fringe. People like Khalid Samad are the mainstream, and they offer challenges. And this is what I talk about the media. There's no attempt to explore these kinds of contradictions. That's what I mean by imagination, I think.
I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, it's coming. Assuming, yes, questions.
You talk about. Thanks. You talked about anticipatory imaginative media. What about advocacy media? You talked about old issues, but nobody said anything about electoral fraud, which I think is a major issue for this election. Never before have so many people on Facebook saying that their friends found out that they've been registered without the knowledge, and Versi is compiling all these facts. And I don't know why the media they're not making more out of it and questioning how can we go to the polls with such a problematic electoral roll that basic democratic right has been subverted, I think. Yeah. And there's so many efforts by civil society to address this problem, and nothing from the government, the caretaker government, except for the RCI, and that's not resolved yet.
One more question.
Oh, sorry.
Is
Is there one?
No, yeah, what's this?
Where? Okay, one here and then one there.
My name is Jamal. If you look at the 2008 elections, it was more or less decided by the parliamentary seats, or the government was decided by the parliamentary seats in Sabah and Sarawak. Do you see the same thing happening again this time around? Or do you think that perhaps the mindset of the Sabah and Sarawak voters may have shifted somewhat? And
my question is, maybe my question is not just to the panelists here, but maybe to everybody in this room, which is that it's been bugging me a lot the last 24 hours, which is kind of been taken over by excitement and the hope, which is the announcement of the election, and it's upon us, and there might be change. We hear there's a shift this way, that way. But what happens on the 6th when we wake up and actually it's the same? It's Barisan is back in power because they've cheated, because the electoral roll, because of all these kind of things. The media is going to be exactly the same. We're going to I want to see the headline in the Star on the 6th that says, "Oh shit." What if it's not? What if it is just? That's the question I've been asking myself, and I don't think anybody here came because they're expecting anything different. It's that hope. That's why we're here today. In terms of the media, will there be change? Will we? What's going to happen? Because it will be, for me, I'll need to go away for a while, just to Sri Lanka is probably, yeah.
You brought up interesting about the headline in the Star being "Oh shit." I was in the newsroom on the last election day, March 8, 2008. And we were there, getting all the news. The seats were falling, and I can tell you, no offense to my former colleagues at the Star, when I looked up in the newsroom, this is the nerve center of the Star, and Selangor had just fallen. They used that term, fallen. And I looked around and I saw so many senior editors, senior journalists with this shell-shocked look on their faces. They were going like, oh my God, what the fuck is going to happen? And we were on the online side saying, wow, we are here, this is history, isn't that what any journalist wants? I mean, we may not have been on the ground doing where the action was taking place, but here we were, and something tremendous was happening in Malaysia. History was being made, and there was this group of people who were excited. Wow, we must get this story out. Let's try and beat Malaysian Insider, Malaysia clinging to this. But there were people who looked shocked, like their whole future is screwed, right? And interesting, what's going to happen the next day? One of the many discussions that went on in the Star then, especially Metro's coverage of the new Selangor state government, and somebody complained to them that they were being too, some of the journalists, not the whole desk, right? They were being too anti-government, and someone just said, hello, we are being pro-government, that's our new government.
Electoral fraud. Okay, the easy answer is there wasn't a lot of Facebook 5 years ago. A lot of reports of electoral fraud over the years. We are a lot more aware now because you have Bersih. But I can tell you, we had the same issue in 2004, we had the same issue in 1999. We've always had this issue. 5% of electoral roll is fake, right? And they move voters around. Some people wake up one day, you vote here, this election, next election, you vote somewhere else. I was with, again, a bunch of journalists yesterday, and we were talking about how Barisan Nasional decided they can't win in Seputeh, where Teresa Kok is, so they took 3,000 voters from there and put it in Lebah Pantai. Just have a chance, right? So if you voted all your life in Seputeh, suddenly this election you are voting in Lebah Pantai. You can't do anything about it. You're a legitimate voter. Everyone who goes with an IC is a legitimate voter. The same in Lim Guan Ying's constituency in Bagan. They added 600 FRU guys there, apparently. See, we get all kinds of stories. Who do we attribute this to? Who do we source the stories to? Who lodges a report? Can any of you now check where you're voting? And if you're going to vote, if you find out that you're voting elsewhere, are you going to lodge a police report and say, hang on a minute, this is not where I didn't register for this place. I've had friends whose mothers are 80 years old, never voted in their lives, who are now voting in Johor Bahru. They've never been there in their lives. One has dementia, the other I don't know has what. Right? So you have all that. And I say, you compile this, give it to us, and we'll do something about it. Oh, we've complained to Bersih, and Bersih has done lots of complaints. My friend, Mr. D. Cruz here is from Global Bersih, he'll tell you about all the complaints. So many complaints. It's come to a point where everybody says you can't do anything. Can you go the Haris Ibrahim way and threaten bodily harm at people? I don't think so, right? So what can you do? Are they going to steal the election? Perhaps, most likely, I don't know. So all of us have this duty to make sure they don't, to go out and vote. If on that day the voter count is high, the turnout is above 80%, it's actually bad for Barisan. Their sweet spot is 72 to 78%. Actually, no, 72 to 76%. Anything above that, they lose. But more people go and vote for the opposition than for the government. And this is what happened in 2008. Everybody thought the other guy was going to vote Barisan in Selangor, right? But every other guy woke up on the 9th and said, oh shit, we've lost Ketoyo, we don't know who we're going to get. Right? So that's the experience. This is the great Malaysian dream of we're going to change government. On May 6th, the headline in the Star is, Malaysians voted wisely. Because the Star editors will just take the middle road. Trust me on this. Right? I can answer that question for you. Right? So that's what they're going to do. They're not going to say BN lost terribly. You can't say that. Right? Because it is the people's paper. You know? So that's how it is. That's your electoral fraud. I think Malaysia has done a lot in terms of awareness. And the pity is we Malaysians outsource everything to them, or the media, you should do something about it. It's there, the issue is there. You tell the EC, they just ignore it. So you have, on May 5th, go out and vote. And make sure nobody makes a screw up or allows foreigners or whoever to come and vote. Right? What will happen most likely on May 5th is this. You're going to find a lot of underage people who can vote. Okay? You're going to find a lot of 19-year-olds who have an IC that says they're 21, 22. I kid you not. You're going to find that they're legitimate Malaysians, but they're not of the age they can vote. That's what you're going to find. Okay? I can't tell you how I know this. Right? Malaysian Insider, we know a lot of stuff we don't like. We only like 10% of what we know. Sometimes. Okay? So that's that. Will Sabah and Sarawak make a change? I hope so. They expect more seats to fall. You know, while we're going to this forum, I'm talking to a lot of people on my new archived BlackBerry and WhatsApp, and they're telling me stories about, oh, you know, UMNO is panicking in Johor, they're panicking here, panicking there. 5 days into the campaign, they can panic, but they have 10 days to do a game changer. That's what they're looking at. It's the longest campaign since 74 or 69, 15 days. Never happened before. Because Barisan needs to introduce its candidates, it needs to fix a lot of things. It needs to get you tired of everything and just say, okay lah, I'll vote for you lah. You know? So, will it make a change? Yes. I think we can expect more seats to fall in Sabah and Sarawak. You need Sabah, Sarawak, you need 30 seats from Sabah, Sarawak and Johor, so they have a new government in Putrajaya. That's the calculation. 30 seats. Right? I think Pakatan is fooling itself because I don't think they can even hold the 82 seats they ever had. You know, so there it is. Do not, I think like Edge said, you know, what are we going to expect on the 6th of May? I think by 4 a.m. on the 6th of May, you will know. You will know whether your hopes are dashed. I presume, I can only presume 95% out of everyone here are not Barisan National type people. I can only presume, I don't know. But I think invariably, I prefer Barisan National government for only one reason. They give me more stories than the Pakatan government. Unselfishly. Thank you.